The crystal chandeliers in the Hamptons estate turned the marble floors into glossy mirrors. I knelt on the ground, tweezers in hand, dabbing at a red wine stain on the carpet. Bit by bit earlier at Anderson's party, his date had deliberately knocked over her wine glass, splattering the crimson liquid across the six-figure Persian rug. Martha, the housekeeper, had pointed her finger at my nose and snapped, "If you can't get this out, it'll come out of your paycheck." My phone buzzed nonstop in my pocket. It was a payment reminder from the hospital. Mr. Jesse's rehabilitation fees have been overdue for 3 days. Treatment will be suspended if not paid today. I clutched the phone so hard my nails dug into my palm. Most of last month's wages had been deducted. Barely enough to buy chemo drugs for Mom. Where would I scrape up the money for my brother's treatment? "Emily, hurry up," Anderson's voice boomed from the staircase. He wore a silk robe, twirling a cigar between his fingers, flanked by 2 bodyguards. "Bring me the whiskey from my study 1982 Lafite, to go with it." I scrambled to my feet and rushed to the wine cellar. Passing the living room, I overheard Anderson chatting with his business associate, and the conversation somehow turned to my brother. "That cripple still has the nerve to ask for more compensation," Anderson sneered, blowing a ring of smoke. 10 grand was more than generous. "Does he really think my money grows on trees?" His associate chimed in, "Connor, you're too soft. If it were me, I'd have had him tossed out of New York by now. Who does he think he is? Demanding more?" My feet froze, blood rushing to my head. 3 years ago, my brother Jesse had been hit by Anderson's sports car at a Queens intersection. His legs shattered. Anderson had fled the scene immediately, and later used his connections to fabricate evidence, only paying out $10,000 in compensation. That amount hadn't even covered Jesse's first surgery. My brother had been confined to a wheelchair ever since, and Mom, working 3 jobs to scrape together medical bills, had collapsed from exhaustion, diagnosed with stomach cancer last year. Chemo had left her hair falling out in clumps. "Mr. Anderson," I said, my voice trembling as I tightened my fists, "about my brother's treatment fees. Could you advance me some money? I'll pay you back as soon as I get paid. I'll work overtime. Do any job you want." Anderson turned to me, looking at me like I was garbage. "Advance you money? You think you deserve that? A maid daring to make demands of me. I should have made you pay for the damage to my car, not the other way around." He pulled a stack of $100 bills from his wallet and hurled them at the photo of Jesse in his wheelchair. Kept it in my pocket, foolishly hoping to stir some sympathy. "Here enough to buy your crippled brother a new wheelchair wheel. Now get out of my sight before you disgust me." The bills scattered across the floor, stinging like slaps to my face. Everyone in the living room laughed, those men and women in designer clothes, staring at me with contempt, as if watching a ridiculous sideshow. Martha marched over and shoved me aside. "You ungrateful thing, get back to work before you get fired." I knelt down and picked up the bills one by one, each feeling like a red-hot iron. Jesse's smiling face in the photo seemed to gaze back at me, and Mom's gaunt, chemo-ravaged face flashed before my eyes. Suddenly I laughed until tears streamed down my cheeks. "Mr. Anderson," I looked up, my voice eerily calm, yet sharp with a resolve that surprised even me, "you'll regret this." He froze for a second, then burst out laughing. "Regret? I've run this town for 30 years. I've not heard anything so absurd. A maid threatening me. Don't bother showing up tomorrow. Get lost." He froze for a second, then burst out laughing. "Regret? I've run this town for 30 years. I've not heard anything so absurd. A maid threatening me. Don't bother showing up tomorrow. Get lost." Stepping outside the estate gates, the cool evening breeze stung my face. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number I'd saved but never dared to call the cop who'd handled Jesse's hit-and-run case. He'd once quietly told me Anderson's evidence was fishy, but no one dared cross a man with his power. "Officer," I took a deep breath, my voice steady, "I have leads on Anderson hit Tandrin, evidence tampering. I want to report him, and there's something off about his company's taxes too. When I worked at his estate, I saw him sneaking around with his CFO, hiding account books." After hanging up, I stared at the sprawling lit-up mansion behind me, only one thought lingering in my mind. "Anderson, every penny you owe my family, every ounce of pain you've caused, I'll make you pay it back with interest. This vengeance has only just begun." The day after I got fired, I clutched my last $300 and wandered the streets of Queens all morning before finally finding Ms. Lena's apartment. It was in a rundown building with peeling paint, the hallway reeking of mildew. "You're Emily, Jesse's sister." Lena opened the door, her eyes red from crying. She looked far more haggard than in the photos, gray streaking her hair. "Come in." I'm at my wit's end. "Anderson's men came by yesterday, threatening to pull my son out of school if I dare hand over the surveillance tape to the media." I sat on her creaky sofa, staring at a photo frame on the coffee table. Lena and her son, the boy grinning brightly in his school uniform, an Anderson Foundation scholarship pin on his chest. Ms. Lena, don't worry, won't let him hurt your son. I pulled a slip of paper from my bag. This is the number for the Anderson Foundation's director. I got it when I worked at the estate. He's a good man, snuck help to folks like us before. Call him. Say your son wants to transfer to a public school for better personal growth. He'll handle the rest. Lena stared at me in surprise. How did you get all this? Working as a maid for Anderson, you learn to watch and listen if you want to survive. I smiled faintly. Now, let's talk about that surveillance tape. You said an intern made a backup. Do you know his name? Mark, Lena recalled. He's a journalism student at NYU. He said something felt wrong about the case, so he copied the tape, told me he'd testify if we needed him to. That afternoon, I tracked Mark down at NYU's journalism department. He was a young guy with glasses, and he hesitated for a long time when I told him why I'd come. I do have the tape, but Anderson's got connections all over New York. I'm scared. I know you're frightened, I said, telling him about Jesse and Mom. But if we don't stand up, he'll just keep hurting more people. He didn't just hit and run. He cheats his employees, preys on people like us. We need your help to show the world who he really is. Mark was quiet for a few minutes, then nodded firmly. Okay, I'll help. The tape's on my USB drive. I'll copy it for you right now, but the tape alone isn't enough. Guys like Anderson always have more skeletons in their closet. Did you notice anything weird when you worked for him? His question jogged my memory. Anderson had an obsession with antiques, especially 18th century French furniture. In his study, there was a massive antique cabinet always, locked tight, and he'd only open it himself, not even letting Martha near it. Once, I'd accidentally brushed against it while cleaning, and Anderson had flown into a rage, shoving me aside and snarling, "Touch that again and I'll break your hands." Maybe we should start with that cabinet, I told Mark. 3 days later, I snuck back into the Hamptons estate, posing as a cleaner from a staffing agency. Martha had been struggling to find a replacement, and when I pretended to apologize for my mistake, she'd let me come back temporarily. As I cleaned the study, I kept my eye on the antique cabinet. Anderson was at a Wall Street meeting that day. He wouldn't be back until afternoon, giving me plenty of time. Following the plan Mark and I had worked out, I used the spare key I'd copied. I'd made it on a whim, never thinking I'd need it to unlock the study door. The cabinet had a complicated combination lock. I tried Anderson's birthday, his wedding anniversary. Nothing worked. Then I remembered, every time he opened the cabinet, he'd glance at a painting on his desk, a photo of him with a woman I didn't recognize, taken in front of the Eiffel Tower, dated July 14th, 1998, 1998714. I typed in the numbers, and with a click, the cabinet opened. Inside, there were no priceless antiques, just stacks of thick ledgers and a few file folders. I flipped through the ledgers quickly, my stomach dropping as I read. Anderson's company was guilty of massive tax fraud, siphoning millions through fake expenses and shell companies. The folders held letters between him and local politicians, plus wire transfer receipts each for 6 figures or more. I found it, I whispered, shoving the ledgers and folders into my backpack. I was about to close the cabinet when I heard footsteps in the doorway. It was Martha. "Emily, what are you doing?" Martha stood in the door, her eyes bulging. My heart raced, my mind racing to think of an excuse. "Mrs. Martha, Mr. Anderson asked me to grab a document, said it was in the antique cabinet." "When did he tell you that?" "He specifically said no one was allowed to touch this cabinet before he left." Martha narrowed her eyes, suspicious. Just then, my phone rang. It was Mark. Thinking fast, I hit speakerphone. "Mark, are you outside?" "Mr. Anderson said to wait for me by the gate tile. Bring the document right out." Martha relaxed a little when she heard Mr. Anderson and Mark. She knew Mark was Anderson's lawyer's assistant. "Oh, right. Hurry up then, don't keep the boss waiting." I nodded, hurrying out of the study, my heart still pounding. As soon as I stepped outside the estate gates, I saw Mark waiting in his car by the curb. "Did you get it?" he asked anxiously. "I got it." I handed him the backpack. "Anderson's not just evading taxes, he's bribing politicians too. This evidence is more than enough to take him down." Mark flipped through the ledgers, grinning. "Perfect. I know a reporter at the New York Times. He specializes in these kinds of stories. Let's go find him right now. Get Anderson's scandals out in the open." As we drove, the scenery blurring past the window, I thought of Mom's weak smile in the hospital, of Jesse staring out the window from his wheelchair, lost in thought. I knew this was just the first step. There'd be a tough fight ahead. But I wasn't scared anymore. Justice might be late, but it always comes. David, the New York Times reporter, was a man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and sharp eyes. After reading through our evidence, he was quiet for a long time. "This is solid, but Anderson's got deep roots in New York. We need more concrete proof to make sure this sticks." He leaned forward. Tax fraud and bribery need official investigation results to back them up. I can reach out to the IRS and the FBI, but that'll take time. In the meantime, we can go after his philanthropy. That's his Achilles heel. Philanthropy. I frowned. Every year, Anderson donates big money to charities and throws fancy galas to paint himself as a philanthropist, David explained. But according to these ledgers, most of the money he donates flows right back into his own pockets through shell companies. We'll expose that. First, get the public riled up, pressure the authorities to act. A week later, the front page of the New York Times ran a headline: The Hamptons Billionaires Charity Scam. Millions in donations siphoned 2 personal accounts. The photos showed Anderson grinning and holding a giant check at a charity gala. Next, 2 screenshots of the ledger entries. The story exploded overnight. Social media erupted. #Anderson charity scam trended instantly. Netizens dug up dirt. The schools Anderson sponsored served terrible meals and used broken second-hand equipment. The hospital he'd promised to build a new wing for still hadn't broken ground. More people came forward with stories: construction workers he'd stiffed on wages, business owners he'd bullied into selling their companies. Anderson tried to deny it at first, releasing a statement through his lawyer calling the story completely fabricated and a malicious attack by a disgruntled few, but David had anticipated that. He followed up with an audio recording Mark and I had found. Anderson and his CFO plotting to launder money through charities. What do we do now? The Times ran the story: will get torn apart by the public. The CFO panicked. Calm down. Anderson's voice was cold. We'll throw a little more money at those schools and hospitals, bribe them to stay quiet. And that reporter, he'll learn what happens when you cross me. The recording made public anger boil over. The IRS and FBI moved fast, raiding Anderson's company and estate, carting away boxes of documents and computers. That day, Mark, Lena, and I sat in Mom's hospital room, watching the news on TV. The footage showed Anderson being led away by FBI agents, his perfectly styled hair messy, his usual arrogance gone. Mom, sitting up in bed, squeezed my hand so hard tears streamed down her face. Emily, thank you. Thank you for getting justice for your brother. Jessie smiled too. You're amazing, sis. We don't have to be scared of him anymore. Just when we thought it was over, David called me, his voice serious. Emily, be careful. Anderson's lawyer just contacted me. They're threatening to sue you for defamation, and I heard he's hired guys to go after you and your family. My stomach dropped. He's in custody. What can he do? He's locked up, but his connections aren't, David said. Don't go out alone, and call me if anything happens. Hanging up, I looked at Mom and Jessie sleeping in the hospital room, my chest tight with worry. I knew Anderson wouldn't give up, but I wouldn't back down, not for my family, not for everyone he'd hurt. A few days later, a strange number called. The man on the line claimed to be Anderson's lawyer. Ms. Emily, my client is willing to offer you a deal. Withdraw all your evidence and issue a public apology, and he'll give you enough money to cover your mother's treatment and your brother's rehab. Refuse, and you and your family will face consequences. Consequences. I laughed bitterly. Tal Anderson ed. Like to see him try. What he owes us isn't money, it's accountability. I'll be there to watch him get what he deserves. After hanging up, I called David and Mark right away. David said he'd told the FBI about the threats they'd assigned agents to protect my family. Mark promised to reach out to his media contacts. If Anderson tried anything, his scandals would get even more coverage. In the weeks that followed, the FBI's investigation picked up steam. They found more proof of Anderson's tax fraud and political bribes. The court scheduled his trial quickly. On the day of the hearing, Mark, Lena, and I sat in the gallery, watching Anderson stand in the defendant's box, pale eyes darting, no longer the powerful man he'd been. When the judge sentenced him to 10 years in prison and a $10 million fine for tax fraud, bribery, and hit and run, the gallery erupted in applause. As baloofs led Anderson away, I felt no joy, just a quiet sense of relief. Stepping outside the courthouse, the sun warmed my face. Lena squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. Thank you, Emily. I never would have had the courage to stand up to him without you. Mark grinned. We did it. Justice finally won. Looking at them, I felt so grateful. I never could have done this alone. Mom had always said, good people get looked out for by fate. She was right. Back at the hospital, I told Mom and Jessie about the verdict. Mom cried so hard she couldn't speak. Jessie just smiled and said, time for a fresh start, sis. And that's exactly what we did. With the compensation Anderson paid us, we got Mom the best doctors and bought Jessie new rehab equipment. Lena, Mark, and I started a small nonprofit helping people like us. Folks pushed around by the rich and powerful get legal help and support. Sometimes I'd stand outside the Hamptons estate, staring at the ornate iron gates that had once terrified me. Now it was up for sale, the new owners renovating it. The dark days were behind us, and the road ahead was long, but I wasn't scared anymore. As long as I had justice and courage in my heart, nothing could knock me down. 3 months after Anderson went to prison, Mom finally recovered enough to leave the hospital. The sun was bright that day. I pushed her wheelchair, and Jessie walked beside us with crutches, now through Central Park. Kids ran on the grass. Seniors strolled by the lake. Everything felt alive. Isn't this lovely? Mom said, looking around. I always thought people like us would just get pushed around forever. But now, I see all it takes is a little bravery to change things. Jessie laughed. You're famous now, sis. The nurses at my rehab center asked if you're the Emily who took down Anderson. I blushed. Ever since the trial, local papers had run my story, calling me the brave maid in the face of justice. People started reaching out, asking for help with their own problems. That's when I realized there were so many others like us ordinary folks getting taken advantage of, too scared to fight back. Lena, Mark, and I decided to grow our little nonprofit. We named it Glow because even small lights can brighten dark corners. We rented a tiny office in Queens, hired a few volunteers, and started offering free legal advice and support to workers who'd been cheated out of wages or scammed. It wasn't easy at first. A lot of people didn't trust us. They thought we were just here today, gone tomorrow, or that folks like us couldn't. Take on the powerful. But we kept showing up, proving ourselves with action. Take Rosa, for example, a Mexican immigrant who'd worked at a restaurant, her boss stiffing her 3 months' wages. When she'd tried to complain to the labor department, he'd threatened to have her deported. We connected her with labor lawyers and immigration advocates we'd met through David. In the end, her boss not only paid her back, but got fined by the labor department. Rosa brought us a silk banner that said, "Fighters for Justice" in shaky English. Without Glow, I'd still be scared and broke, she told us, crying. That's when people started noticing more, and more folks came to us for help, and our little nonprofit grew. 6 months later, we got an anonymous $100,000 donation. We tracked down the donor businessman who'd been scammed by Anderson years ago. Your story inspired me, he said. I want to help you keep fighting for people like us. With that money, we moved to a bigger office, hired full-time lawyers and social workers, and helped even more people. That's when I met Ben. He was a reporter who'd written a story about Glow. He was kind, honest, and passionate about justice. We clicked right away. He didn't just write about our work. He used his connections to get us more resources and partners. With Ben's help, we threw a big fundraiser gala. We invited socialites, business owners, anyone who cared about helping others. We told Glow's story, showed videos of the people we'd helped. By the end of the night, dozens of businesses had promised to donate or partner with us. After the gala, Ben took my hand and walked me through Central Park. You're incredible, Emily, he said. From a maid to a nonprofit leader, you're using your voice to help so many people. I leaned my head on his shoulder, smiling. It's not just me, none of this would have happened without Lena, Mark, or everyone who supported us. Glow's not about myths, about all of us, sticking up for each other. Ben squeezed my hand. Whatever comes next, I'm right here with you. Looking into his eyes, I felt so happy. I thought back to the old Mitha one who'd cowered in Anderson's estate, scared to speak up, scared to fight. I'd always thought people like me, poor, uneducated, a maid, could never change anything. But I was wrong. All it takes is courage to stand up, and the determination to keep going. A year later, Glow was one of New York's most trusted nonprofits. We'd helped thousands of workers get their wages back, supported hundreds of families, and even pushed for better labor laws. The city gave me an Outstanding Citizen Award. Standing on the stage holding the trophy, I looked out at the crowd. Mom, Jessie, Ben, Lena, Mark, and all the people we'd helped. This award isn't just mine, I said, my voice shaking. It belongs to everyone who's fought with Glow, everyone who believes in justice and kindness. I used to be a nobody, a maid, looked down on, pushed around. But I learned something. No matter how small you feel, no matter how powerful the people hurting you are, you can make a difference if you don't give up. You can be the light. The crowd cheered, and I saw Mom and Jessie wiping tears. Ben smiling proudly, Lena and Mark clapping so hard their hands must have hurt. In that moment, I knew my life had changed from living in the shadows to shining bright, from being a victim to being an advocate. The road ahead would have more challenges, but I wasn't scared. With the people I loved by my side and Glow's mission in my heart, I was ready to keep going, to help more people, to make more change, to keep shining light into the dark corners of the world. Glow's new office was in an old building in downtown Brooklyn. The walls were covered with photos of the people we'd helped, Rosa grinning with her back pay, construction workers holding a thank you, Glow sign. Even the kids Anderson had stiffed on scholarships, sending us their report cards. I was smiling at the photos when Ben burst in, his face as dark as the rain outside. Emily, look at this. He handed me his phone. The headline on a local gossip site read, Glow nonprofit accused of money laundering. Ex-maid uses charity to line her pockets. The photo showed me leaving a bank, holding a bag of vitamins I'd bought for mom, but the caption claimed I was withdrawing huge sums of donated money. My fingers went cold as I scrolled through the comments. Typical poor girl gets a little power and turns greedy, looks innocent. But she's just a crook. Heard her mom's surgery was paid for by scams. Now she's scamming with charity. Disgusting. Who's behind this? My voice trembled. Ben took my hand, his warmth calming me down. David just called, said Sarah, Anderson's ex-wife. Paid the site to run the story. She took over what's left of his assets, and she's been waiting to get back at you. I remembered Sarah saw her a few times at the estate. She'd worn designer clothes, treated us maids like dirt. Once dumped a full cup of coffee on my hand because it was too cold. She'd vanished after Anderson's arrest, but now she was back, trying to destroy Glow. We need to clear this up. Fast donors will pull their money if we don't. I grabbed my jacket, but Ben stopped me. Wait, David's already talking to major outlets to run a correction. First, we'll release all our financial records, show everyone exactly where every dollar goes. I was busy organizing the spreadsheets when the hospital called. The nurse's voice was frantic. Ms. Emily, your mom collapsed while walking in the garden. She's in the ER. We need you here now. My mind went blank, papers scattering across the desk. Ben drove us to the hospital, the wiper slapping against the rain, but nothing could wipe the fear from my chest. Mom had been doing so well, how could this happen? When we got to the ER, Jesse was pacing the hallway, shaking. He ran to me, tears in his eyes. Sis, Mom, she said. A guy was following her. He gave her a bottle of water, and she drank it. Then she collapsed. Someone followed her. I grabbed his arm. Did you see what he looked like? Black jacket, hat pulled. Lo couldn't see his face. Mom said, he told her, Mr. Anderson sent me to check on you. My blood ran cold. It was Sarah. She didn't dare come after me directly, so she went after Mom. The doctor came out a few minutes later. Acute drug poisoning. We got her here in time, but she needs to stay for observation. I sat by Mom's bed, staring at her pale face, my nails digging into my palms. Sarah, if you hurt my mom, I'll make you pay. The next day, Glow held a press conference. We laid out our bank statements, donor receipts, and beneficiary sign-offs on the table. David came too, holding proof that Sarah had paid the gossip site. Everyone can check our records. Every dollar Glow gets goes to helping people. I looked at the cameras, my voice steady. These rumors are lies, and we'll take legal action against anyone spreading them. Justice will prevail. After the conference, the tide turned. People who doubted us apologized. Donors didn't just stay more. People gave money, leaving notes like keep fighting. We're with you. Sarah's plan backfired, but I knew she wouldn't stop. Ben hired a security company. Cameras went up at our office and my mom's place. I stayed at a hotel near the hospital every night, taking turns with Jesse to watch Mom. Jesse tried to tell me to rest, but I couldn't. Tiff. Sarah was willing to hurt Mom. She'd do anything. A week later, Mom was well enough to go home. I hired a driver to take us, but when we got to the door, we saw Tom, the old gardener from the estate, holding an envelope. He hurried over. Ms. Emily, Sarah told me to give this to your moms. Said it's compensation. I knew something was wrong, so I waited for you. I opened the envelope. Inside was a $100,000 check and a note. Take the money and drop the Anderson stuff. Next time it won't just be a collapse. Tom stared at his shoes. Sarah threatened to fire my son from her company if I didn't deliver it. I had no choice. I know. Tom, it's not your fault. I patted his shoulder. You did the right thing by giving this to me. With the check and note, I went straight to David. He frowned as he looked at them. This is enough to charge her with assault and intimidation. But she's got a good lawyer. We need more evidence to make sure she can't weasel out of it. I remembered Tom saying his son worked for Sarah. David, can you get in touch with Tom's son? I need to know what's going on at Sarah's company. David nodded. I'll set it up. Emily, be careful. Sarah's on edge now. Standing on the sidewalk, watching cars pass by, I felt a fire in my chest. Sarah thought money and threats would make me back down. She didn't know me. I'd gone from a scared maid to running a nonprofit. Fought Anderson, fought his goons, fought for justice. Sarah's turn was coming. Tom's son Jack worked as an accountant at Sarah's company. We met at a small Brooklyn cafe. He looked nervous, his coffee cup shaking in his hand. Ms. Emily, I know you're trying to take down Sarah, but she's smart. The company books are clean. You'll never find anything. What about off-the-book stuff? I asked. Shell companies, weird transfers, people she meets with that don't make sense. Jack thought for a minute, then leaned in, lowering his voice. Once I saw her meet with a guy named Raymond. He runs an underground bank. They talked about Anderson's money and a company called Starry Sky. I checked it out. Starry Sky's a shell, registered to an abandoned warehouse, but millions go in and out every month. Starry Sky. I wrote it down. Jack, thank you. I promise you won't get in trouble. Jack shook his head. I've hated working for Sarah anyway. She cheats her employees, makes us cook the books. I stayed for my dad. But if I can help put her away, I will. I'll testify if you need me to. With Jack's help, things moved fast. He snuck us copies of Sarah's emails with Raymond and Starry Sky's bank records. David took everything to the FBI agents, raided Starry Sky in Raymond's office, finding proof Sarah was laundering Anderson's hidden money and smuggling luxury goods. Just as we were getting ready to press charges, Sarah called me. She wanted to talk. We met at a fancy restaurant. She wore a red dress and expensive jewelry, but her eyes were scared, not confident. Emily, let's make a deal. She stirred her coffee, acting casual. Drop the charges, and I'll give you $500,000, enough for your mom's treatment. Your brother's rehab, whatever Glow needs. You can walk away rich. I laughed. Sarah, do you really think I'd sell out for money? You hurt my mom, lied about Glow, and now you're trying to bribe me. You're delusional. Sarah's face twisted in anger. Don't be stupid. I can shut down Glow, make sure you and your family never work in New York again. I'd like to see you try. I pulled out my phone, hitting play on the recording app. Everything you just said, plus the laundering and smuggling evidence, is already with the FBI. Enjoy prison. Sarah stood up, screaming, and tried to hit me, but the restaurant security grabbed her. They dragged her out, kicking and yelling. I took a sip of my coffee. It was bitter, but I felt calm. A few days later, FBI agents arrested Sarah and Raymond. The judge sentenced her to 10 years in prison and a $5 million fine. Starry Sky was shut down, and the money they'd laundered went to Anderson's victims and other nonprofits. Mark, Lena, Ben, and I went to visit Anderson in prison. He looked older, his hair graying, eyes empty. When he saw me, he smiled a sad, tired smile. You beat me, Emily. I always thought money and power made you untouchable. But you've proved me wrong. Justice matters more. I looked at him, calm. You didn't lose to Mew, lost to your own greed and cruelty. I hope you use your time here to learn from your mistakes. Walking out of the prison, the sun felt warm on my face. Ben took my hand, ready to get back to Glow. I nodded, smiling, more than ready. Glow kept growing. We opened offices in other cities, helped more people. Mom started volunteering at our Brooklyn office, organizing donations. Jessie got better at walking, even started helping with Glow's website. Sometimes I'd stand in the office, looking at the photos on the wall, thinking about the scared maid I'd been. Those hard days had made me strong, taught me that courage isn't being fearless, but fighting even when you're scared. The future would have more challenges, but I wasn't worried. With Mom, Jessie, Ben, Lena, Mark, and everyone at Glow by my side, I knew we could handle anything. Because when good people stand together, even the darkest shadows can't win. After Sarah went to prison, Glow thrived. We didn't just help workers get their wages back. We started free legal workshops and job training classes, helping people build skills and find good jobs. More volunteers joined, including some big names, NYU professors, famous lawyers, even a few actors. We were getting ready for Glow's first anniversary gala when we got a letter from the New York State Attorney General's office. Someone had accused us of misusing donations, and they wanted to investigate. The news felt like a bucket of cold water dumped on our excitement. The anonymous complaint listed evidence. The stipends we gave volunteers for transportation were called embezzlement. Our office rent was wasteful spending. Even the care packages we gave to beneficiaries were self-dealing. Investigators came to the office. They went through our books, contracts, bank statements, and interviewed our staff and beneficiaries. Our records were clean. Every expense had receipts and a clear purpose. But the investigation still hurt. Glow's reputation? Reporters wrote stories about Glow under investigation, not saying we've done anything wrong, but planting seeds of doubt. Worse, there was trouble inside Glow. A few volunteers were embarrassed by the investigation. They started questioning my leadership, even suggesting we get a new director. The loudest was Jessica, a rich girl who joined just to pat her resume. At a volunteer meeting, she stood up and said, Emily, you were just a maid. You don't know how to run a nonprofit. This mess is your fault. We should hire a professional like the foundation president. I know. Looking at Jessica, I felt disappointed. Glow was built by all of us, by Lena, Mark, volunteers, and the people we'd helped. Now, when things got tough, she was turning on me, wanting to hand Glow over to someone who didn't care about our mission. Jessica, I don't have a fancy degree, but I care about Glow more than anyone. I kept my voice steady. We didn't do anything wrong. The investigation will clear us. If you're embarrassed to be here, you can leave. But don't attack me or Glow. This organization means too much to too many people. Jessica turned red, stormed out, yelling, I don't need this. A few volunteers who'd been friends with her followed. Watching them go, my chest felt tight. Ben walked over, putting his arm around me. Don't let them get to you. The people who matter are still here. Lena and Mark nodded. We believe in you, Emily. We'll get through this together. The other volunteers spoke up too. We know you're honest. Emily, we're with you. Their support made me feel better. I knew I had to find who'd filed the complaint and clear Glow's name fast. Lena, Mark, Ben, and I talked it over. We thought it was Sarah's doing. She was in prison, but her old friends might still be out there, trying to hurt us. We decided to ask Jack for help. He knew Sarah's people better than anyone. Jack told us Sarah had talked to a woman named Lily before going to prison. Lily was her assistant, her right-hand woman. After Sarah's arrest, Lily quit her job and disappeared. We tracked Lily down to a small apartment in suburban New York. When she opened the door, she looked terrified. Lily, we know you filed the complaint against Glow. I got straight to the point. How much did Sarah pay you? Lily's face went white. She sat down crying. Sarah didn't pay me. She threatened my family. If I didn't file the complaint, she said she'd hurt my little sister. I had no choice. Do you know how much pain you caused? Ben said, angry. Glow helps people. You almost destroyed that. Lily sobbed harder. I'm sorry. I hate myself for it. I'll do anything to make it right. Tell the truth. Testify. Whatever you need. With Lily's help, we got proof Sarah had threatened her and that the complaint was fake. We gave everything to the Attorney General's office and held a press conference, telling the whole story. The truth spread fast. People felt bad for doubting U.S. donations went up, and more volunteers joined. The Attorney General's office closed the investigation, issuing a statement saying Glow was completely transparent and ethical. Glow's first anniversary gala went ahead as planned. So many people came, beneficiaries, volunteers, donors, reporters, standing on the stage, looking at the crowd. I felt so grateful. Thank you all for standing by Glow this past year. My voice shook a little. We've had hard times, lies, threats, doubt, but we got through it because of you. Glow's mission is simple. Help people who can't help themselves. We'll keep doing that, no matter what. Because when we stand together, even small lights can make a big difference. The crowd cheered, and I saw tears in Lena's eyes, Mark grinning, Ben giving me a thumbs up. That night, I knew Glow was stronger than ever. The hard times had taught us to stick together, to fight for what's right, no matter what. Just as Glow was settling into a rhythm, a lawyer showed up at our office. Ms. Emily, I'm Robert Carter Anderson. Asked me to give you this will. I stared at him, confused. Anderson, why would he leave me anything? I opened the will and froze. Anderson was donating his old Brooklyn brownstone and $500,000 to Glow, to help people like Emily and her family, as a way to make amends for my past mistakes. What's this about? I asked Robert. He sighed. Anderson's had a lot of time to think in prison. He's sorry for what he did, saw what Glow was doing, and wanted to help. He said this is the only way he can start to make things right. Holding the will, I felt torn. Anderson had hurt my family so much, ruined Jesse's life, made Mom sick, terrified us. But now he was trying to give back. Could I accept that? Ben put his hand on my shoulder. Emily, whatever he did before, this money and house can help so many people. That's what Glow's about, second chances, right? Lena and Mark nodded. We should take it to do more good. That's the best way to honor his apology. I thought for a minute, then nodded. Okay, but tell Anderson we'll use every penny to help people. No wasted money, no shortcuts. We turned the brownstone into Glow's community center with free legal clinics, job training classrooms, a daycare, and a small library. Every day people came, kids read in the library, adults took classes, seniors chatted over coffee. It was warm, busy, full of life. We used the $500,000 to start a small business fund, helping low-income people start their own businesses. The first person we helped was Rosa. She opened a little Mexican restaurant, serving the food her mom had taught her to cook. On opening day, she invited us all. The place was packed, and Rosa was grinning from ear to ear. None of this would have happened without Glow, she said, hugging me. Thank you for believing in me. Watching Rosa's restaurant thrive, I felt so proud. This was what Glow was meant to be, giving people the chance to build better lives for themselves. As Glow grew, more companies and foundations wanted to partner with us. We worked with a clothing brand to collect old clothes, rewrite them, and give them to homeless shelters. We teamed up with a grocery chain to donate food to food banks. We even started a little advocates program with local schools, teaching kids about justice and kindness, letting them volunteer at the community center. I grew too, from a scared maid to someone who ran meetings, talked to politicians, raised money. Ben was with me every step, quit his reporting job to help run Glow, became my partner in work and life. Mom and Jesse were so proud. Mom volunteered at the community center every day. Jesse helped run our website and social media. One day, I got a letter from Prison Anderson's handwriting. Emily, thank you for accepting my donation. I know it's not enough, but I'm trying. I'm taking law classes and here hope to help people when I get out. You showed me that it's never too late to change. Thank you. Reading the letter, I smiled. Maybe people really could change. Anderson's apology wouldn't fix what he'd done, but his donation was helping others. That was the best outcome we could hope for. Glow kept growing, more offices, more programs, more people helped. But no matter how big we got, we never forgot why we started. To help the little guy, to fight for justice, to be a light in the dark. The road ahead would have more challenges, but I wasn't scared. With Ben, Mom, Jesse, Lena, Mark, and everyone at Glow by my side, I knew we could keep going, keep helping people, keep making a difference, keep shining bright. Just when things felt calm, a terrible rumor started spreading across New York. Anderson had escaped from prison, and he was coming for me and Glow. At first, I laughed it off. Anderson was serving 10 years in a high-security prison. There was no way he could escape. But the rumor grew. People said they'd seen him in Brooklyn, that he'd threatened Glow volunteers, that he was plotting to destroy everything we'd built. Mom and Jesse were scared. Mom couldn't sleep. Jesse offered to buy a gun to protect us. Calm down, I told him. First we'll find out if the rumor's true. I called David. He checked with the prison. Emily, it's a Landersons, still in his cell. But someone's spreading the rumor to scare you and Glow. Who? I asked. David sighed. Franklin Torres, Anderson's old business partner. He took over some of Anderson's companies after the arrest. But Anderson's scandal hurt his business. He thinks if he takes down Glow, he can distract people from his own problems. I remembered Franklin saw him at the estate a few times. He was loud, rude, always yelling at the staff. I shouldn't have been surprised he was behind this. We can't just sit here, Ben said. We need to tell people the truth and beef up security. We put out a statement with proof from the prison that Anderson was still locked up and added more security guards at the community center and office. We told volunteers to be careful, but not to be scared. But Franklin didn't stop. A week later, our community center's warehouse caught fireboxes of donated clothes, food, and supplies burned. Firefighters said it was arson. Someone had poured gasoline and broken the fire alarms. We checked the security camera's blurry footage of a guy in a hoodie and mask sneaking into the warehouse. From his build, we could tell it was Franklin's guy. I've had enough, I said, angry. We're not just defending ourselves, we're taking him down. Ben had been collecting evidence on Franklin. His companies were cheating customers, selling fake products, evading taxes. Mark reached out to his media contacts. Lena talked to the people Franklin had scammed. David took everything to the FBI and the Better Business Bureau. The story broke. Fast Franklin's scams, his role in the arson, the fake escape rumor. People were furious. Customers boycotted his stores. The government fined him. His business partners left him. A few weeks later, Franklin was arrested, charged with arson, fraud, and false advertising. The judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison, and his companies were shut down. The day Franklin went to jail, I stood outside the community center. Volunteers and beneficiaries were helping clean up the warehouse, sorting through the things that hadn't burned. A little girl handed me a drawing, Glow's logo, with the words, "Thank you for helping us." Looking at the drawing, I felt calm. Franklin had tried to scare us, to destroy Glow, but he'd failed. Because Glow wasn't just a building or a non-profit, was the people who cared, who stood together, who refused to give up. Mom walked over, handing me a cup of coffee. "You did good, honey. I'm so proud of you." Jesse grinned. "Told you we could take him down." Ben put his arm around me, ready to rebuild. I smiled, more than ready. We fixed the warehouse, got more donations, and even expanded at a garden where kids could learn to grow vegetables. Glow was stronger, now closer, more determined. I learned something that day. Bad people will always try to tear you down, but if you stand together, if you stay true to your mission, you can overcome anything. And that's exactly what Glow would keep doing, no matter what shadows from the past tried to haunt us. 10 years flew by. Glow had helped over 10,000 people, got workers their back pay, helped small businesses start, gave kids a safe place to learn, supported families in need. We had offices in 10 states, thousands of volunteers, and a reputation as one of America's most trusted nonprofits. To celebrate Glow's 10th anniversary, we threw a big festival in Brooklyn, closing off a street, setting up booths, inviting everyone who'd been part of Glow's story. The street was decorated with Glow's logo, colorful lights, banners with photos of the people we'd helped. Vendors sold food, Rosa's restaurant had a booth. Volunteers ran games for kids, artisans sold handmade crafts to raise money. Mr. Moriyama, an old Japanese indigo dyer, we'd helped set up a vat, showing kids how to dye fabric. A shawl from the Maasai weavers group we'd partnered with sat on a cushion, weaving colorful scarves. Maria, who ran a Mexican embroidery cooperative, sang folk songs with her sisters while they stitched. Monacof, from the Jamaican coconut fiber, weavers taught kids to make little baskets. Old George, he'd played guitar at my first fundraiser, sat on a corner, playing the same country song he'd played 10 years ago. Lena, Mark, and Ben were everywhere, greeting guests, helping volunteers, laughing. I wore a dress made from fabrics from all our partner groups, indigo from Japan, woven Maasai cloth, embroidered Mexican cotton, a coconut fiber belt from Jamaica. On my chest, I pinned a pearl button my grandma had given me, my lucky charm. The highlight was a fashion show for good models. Walked down the street in Glow's most meaningful pieces. The first memory patch dress I'd made from old clothes for a kid's charity, the Savannah Heartbeat gown woven by Aisha's group. The Hurricane Rebirth jacket made from recycled materials by Monica's weavers, Lena's futuristic weave bag, 3D printed frame with handmade fabric. For each outfit, the person who'd made it stood up telling their story. When the last model walked out wearing the cornflower dress I'd made for my grandma's sketch for the orphanage, the crowd cheered so loud my ears rang. I got on stage, microphone in hand, my voice shaking. 10 years ago, I was a maid, scared, broke, thinking my life would never get better. Anderson hurt my family, made me feel powerless. But then I met Lena, Mark, Ben, people who believed in me, who helped me fight back. We started Glow with nothing but a dream, to help people who felt as powerless as I did. I looked out at the crowd, at Mom and Jesse, smiling and crying, at Rosa, waving from her booth, at the kids playing, the seniors chatting, the volunteers hugging. This past decade, we've had hard times. Lies, threats, fires, scandals. But we got through it because of you. Every volunteer, every donor, every person who trusted us, you're the reason Glow exists. People ask me what Glow will be like in 10 years. I hope we'll find more forgotten communities, help more people, keep fighting for justice. Because I believe, no matter how small you are, no matter how big the odds, you can make a difference. Kindness matters, courage matters, community matters. The crowd cheered again, people stood up, clapping, yelling, "Thank you." I saw tears in Lena's eyes, Mark grinning, Ben blowing me a kiss. After the festival, I went to the community center's attic where we kept our Glow archives. My grandma's sewing machine, old photos, the first check we'd ever received, Anderson's will. I pulled out my phone, sent a message to all Glow staff and volunteers. 10 years together, thank you for everything. Here's to the next 10. Stitching the world together, one kind act at a time. Replies poured in. Aisha, the Maasai weavers will always stand with Glow. Mr. Moriyama, my indigo vats will boil for Glow forever. Maria, our needles will stitch more happy stories. Monica, coconut fiber will weave more hope. Lena, here's to 10 more years of changing lives. Reading them, I cried happy tears. 10 years ago, I had been alone, scared, fighting for my family. Now I had a family of thousands of people who cared, who worked together, who made the world better. That night, Ben, Mom, Jesse, Lena, Mark, and I sat on the community center's porch, drinking wine, eating Rosa's tacos. Mom held my hand. I always knew you'd do great things, honey. Grandma would be so proud. Jesse raised his glass. To Glow, to my sister, to the next 10 years. We clinked glasses, laughing. Looking up at the stars, I felt so grateful. The road had been hard, thorns of Brooklyn, the gilded cage of the Hamptons. Fear, pain, doubt, but I'd made it. And I hadn't made it alone. This was my vengeance. Not destroying Anderson, but building something good. Not letting the bad things break me, but using them to become stronger. This was the lesson my grandma had taught. Me, kindness is the best revenge. Courage is the best weapon. Community is the best strength. As the night ended, I walked through the empty street, past the booths, the lights, the photos. I knew this was just the beginning. More people would need help. More fights would need to be fought. More light would need to be shown. But I was ready. Because Glow wasn't just a non-profit, it was a promise. A promise to stand up for the little guy, to fight for justice, to be a light in the dark. And that promise would keep going for 10 more years, 100 more years, as long as there were people who needed help. I was Emily, once a maid, now a leader. Once scared, now brave. Once alone, now surrounded by love. And I'd keep fighting, keep helping, keep shining for as long as it took. After Glow's 10th anniversary festival, I thought we'd finally get a chance to breathe. We'd just launched our rural education initiative, planning to build libraries in poor rural areas around New York, so kids there could have access to books. We'd finalized the plans, found local partners, and were ready to start when Connor Gray showed up at our office. Connor was the CEO of Gray Group, a Wall Street tycoon worth billions, known for buying up small companies and squeezing them dry. He wore a custom Armani suit, a Rolex watch, and smelled like expensive cologne. When he walked in, he scanned our photo wall with a critical eye, a faint smirk on his face. "Ms. Emily, I've heard a lot about you." He handed me a gold-embossed business card. "I admire what Glow does and I want to help. Gray Group is willing to invest $20 million in Glow to help you expand nationwide." $20 million. My heart skipped a beat. With that money, we could build not just libraries, but schools, community centers, hire more staff, help thousands more people. But something about Connor's ice cold, greedy made me uneasy. Mr. Gray, thank you for your interest in Glow. I took the card, keeping my voice polite. But Glow has always operated independently. Our funding comes from individual donations and small, ethical business partnerships. We don't need outside capital. Connor laughed, leaning forward. Ms. Emily, don't be so quick to say no. $20 million is just the start. With Gray Group's resources, we can make Glow the most famous nonprofit in America. You'll be the nonprofit queen. Fame, influence, everything you could want. Fame and influence aren't what Glow is about. I frowned. We're here to help people, not to be famous. We don't need to be the biggest, we just need to be effective. Effective. Connor scoffed. Without capital, how long can you last? Building a few libraries is easy, but in 5 years, 10, you'll run out of money, your programs will fold, and no one will remember Glow. You. His words stung, but I knew he was wrong. Glow wasn't about money, it was about people. About Rosa, and Jesse, and all the folks we'd helped. Taking his money would mean giving up control, letting a man like Connor dictate what Glow did, who we helped. I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, but my answer is still no. I stood up, signaling the meeting was over. If you want to support Glow, you can donate through our website. Every dollar goes directly to our programs. But we won't accept your investment. Connor's smirk disappeared. His face turned cold. Ms. Emily, you'll regret this. No one says no to Connor Gray in New York. He turned and walked out, leaving a cloud of color and a feeling of unease in the air. Ben walked in just as Connor left. Who was that? He looked like trouble. I told him about Connor's offer. My concerns. Ben's face darkened. I know Connor, he's a vulture. He buys small nonprofits, takes control, and uses them for tax write-ups or PR. If we take his money, Glow will become just another tool for him to make more money. Sure enough, trouble started a week later. We'd partnered with a publisher to buy books for the rural libraries, but they called, canceling the order. Our boss said we can't work with Glow anymore, the rep said, sounding scared. We called other publishers, same answer. Then our corporate donors started backing out. We're restructuring, one said. Budget cuts, another lead. One even admitted, we got a call from Gray Group. They said working with Glow would be bad for business. Connor was trying to starve us, outcut our resources until we had no choice but to take his money. This is outrageous. Lena slammed her fist on the table. We're just trying to help kids. Why is he doing this? Mark frowned. The libraries are scheduled to open in a month. Without books, we can't do anything. Those kids are counting on us. I looked at them, angry but determined. Connor can cut our partnerships, but he can't cut the public's trust. We'll ask people to donate, spread the word on social media, reach out to schools, libraries, bookstores. If we stand together, we'll get what we need. We launched a book drive for rural kids, campaign sharing stories of the rural kids who had no books, posting photos of empty library shelves, telling people about Connor's bullying. The response was overwhelming. People dropped off boxes of books at our offices and community centers, old favorites. New bestsellers, textbooks, picture books. Schools held book drives. Libraries donated extra copies. Authors sent signed books. A famous children's author even hosted a Red John to raise money for new books. In a week, we had over 100,000 books, more than enough for the libraries, enough to build extra ones in other towns. On social media, boycott Connor Gray and hashtag support Glow trended. People called out Connor for bullying a nonprofit, for trying to stop kids from getting books. Connor tried to fight back. He paid for ads, calling us attention-seeking and ungrateful, but no one believed him. Everyone could see who the bad guy was, the billionaire trying to control a nonprofit. V's, the little organization fighting for kids. Standing in the warehouse, surrounded by boxes of books, I felt so proud. Connor had thought money and power could break us, but he'd forgotten about community, about kindness, about people who cared. We built the libraries on schedule. On the opening day of the first one, a little girl named Lucy ran up to me, holding a copy of Charlotte's Web. "Thank you for the books," she said, grinning. "I want to be a writer when I grow up, just like you." Watching her, I knew we'd made the right choice. Glow wasn't about money or power. It was about moments like this. About giving kids hope, giving people a chance, making the world a little better. And no matter how many billionaires tried to bully us, we'd keep doing that. Because Glow wasn't just a nonprofit, it was a movement. And movements can't be stopped by money or threats. They're stopped only when people stop caring. Then we'd never stop caring. Connor's attempt to starve us out had failed. If anything, it had made Glow stronger, more loved by the public. But I knew he wouldn't give up. We needed to take the fight to him, expose his true colors, so he could never hurt another nonprofit again. Ben, Lena, Mark, David and I met to plan. David pulled out a folder. Connor's built his reputation on philanthropy, donates to hospitals, builds schools, has a foundation. But my sources say it's all a scam. His foundation spends more on galas and PR than on actual programs. Most of the money goes back to his companies or offshore accounts. What kind of proof do we have? I asked. Bank statements, tax filings, former employees who are willing to talk. David handed us the folder. His donated schools are built with cheap materials, walls cracking, roofs leaking. The hospital wing he funded never finished. He uses the foundation to avoid taxes, launder money, even buy luxury goods for himself. Lena's eyes widened. That's just like Anderson. Using charity as a cover for greed. Worse, Ben said. Anderson at least felt guilty in the end. Connor doesn't care. He's doing this on purpose. Exploiting people's kindness for profit. We need to expose him, I said. But we need solid evidence. A good reporter who can tell the story right. Lena smiled. I know someone, Anna Carter. She's an investigative reporter, specializes in corporate scandals and fake philanthropy. She's fearless stakes on big guys all the time. We reached out to Anna. She read our evidence, talked to David's sources, and was shocked. I've been investigating Connor for months, but I never had this much proof. This will take him down. Anna spent 3 months digging, interviewing former foundation employees, visiting the shoddy schools and unfinished hospital, tracking the money from the foundation to Connor's companies. She found emails where Connor laughed about fooling the public, receipts for designer clothes and private jets paid for with foundation money, even a video of him admitting the foundation was just a tax write-off. When Anna's story ran in the New York Times, headlined "The Tycoon's Fake Philanthropy," how Connor Gray uses charity to cheat, launder, and profit, the world exploded. People were furious. Connor's philanthropist image crumbled overnight. He became the face of corporate greed. Of everything wrong with performative charity, social media lit up with hashtag Connor Gray scam. Protesters picketed Gray Group's headquarters. Shareholders demanded his resignation. The IRS and FBI launched investigations raiding Gray Group, the foundation, Connor's homes. They found more proof: tax fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, even ties to organized crime. Connor tried to fight back, held a press conference crying, saying the story was a lie, blaming disgruntled employees. But he had no evidence, and more people came forward with stories of his scams. A former foundation employee released audio of Connor saying, "Charity's for suckers, we just use it to make more money." In the end, Connor was convicted of tax fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. He got 15 years in prison and a $100 million fine. Gray Group collapsed, sold off to pay his fines and compensate his victims. The day Connor was sentenced, I went to the rural library where Lucy lived. She was sitting on the floor, reading to a group of little kids. When she saw me, she ran over. "Miss Emily, did you hear? The bad man who tried to stop our books is going to jail?" I smiled, kneeling down. "I did, and now we can keep building libraries, keep giving kids books forever." Lucy hugged me. "I'm going to donate my books when I'm big, just like you." Watching her, I felt calm. We hadn't just taken down a bad guy, we sent a message. To every billionaire who thought they could use charity as a cover for greed, to every predator who thought they could bully the little guy, we're watching, and we won't stop fighting. The rural libraries thrived. Kids read, learned, dreamed. Some went to college, some became teachers, some started their own nonprofits. The book drive became an annual event, people all over the country donating books to rural kids. Glow grew too. We launched more education programs, helped more rural communities, partnered with other nonprofits to fight fake philanthropy. We even started an ethical charity initiative, teaching people how to spot scams, how to make sure their donations actually help. This was the power of Glow, not just helping people, but changing the system. Not just shining a light in the dark, but fixing the things that made the dark in the first place. And we'd keep doing it no matter how many Connor Grays tried to stand in our way. Because when you fight for what's right, when you stand with the people who need you, you can change the world. After Connor went to prison, Glow finally had peace. Our rural education program was a success. We'd built 20 libraries, hired local librarians, started after-school reading clubs. Kids were reading more, grades were going up, communities were coming together. I was in my office, going through feedback forms from the libraries, when I got an email. The sender, Anderson. I froze. It had been years since I'd heard from him, since he'd sent that letter from prison, saying he was taking law classes. I opened the email, curious and cautious. "Ms. Emily, I hope this finds you well. I was released from prison 6 months ago. I've been volunteering in a small town upstate, helping local farmers grow organic fruits and vegetables. I heard Glow has a program there, helping rural families. I'd like to meet, talk about partnering. No pressure, just want to help if I can." Partnering with Anderson, the man who'd ruined my brother's life, made my mom sick. My first instinct was to delete the email, block him. But then I thought about his will, his letter, the way he'd tried to make amends in prison. Had he really changed? I told Ben about the email. He thought for a minute. Emily, I know what he did to your family. No one would blame you for saying no. But if he's really trying to do good, if partnering with him can help the farmers, maybe it's worth hearing him out. Not for him, but for the people we're trying to help. Lena and Mark agreed. People can change, Lena said. We gave Rosa a second chance, gave so many others second chances. Why not him? I thought about it for days, about Jesse's legs, Mom's chemo, the fear we'd felt. But I also thought about the farmers, struggling to sell their crops, about Glow's mission to help everyone, even people who'd made mistakes. I emailed Anderson back. Let's meet. Coffee shop in the town square, Friday at 2. Friday came, and I drove upstate. The town was small Main Street with a few shops, a square with a fountain. The coffee shop was cozy, with wooden tables and a fireplace. Anderson was already there, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, gray hair, a beard, no more designer suits or diamond rings. He looked older, tired, but calm, no arrogance, no anger. When he saw me, he stood up, awkward. Miss Emily, thank you for coming. I sat down, straight to the point. Anderson, why do you want to partner with Glow? What do you get out of it? He sighed. Nothing. I just want to make up for what I did. In prison, I thought a lot about the people. I hurt your family, Lena, the workers I cheated. When I got out, I moved here, started helping the farmers because they needed it, not because I wanted praise. They grow amazing produce, but they can't sell it. No connections, no stores to buy from. Glow has community centers, partner stores, a network. If we work together, we can get their food to people who need it, low-income families, food banks, your community centers. It's a win-win. He pulled out a folder, photos of the farms, lists of crops, prices, testimonials from farmers. I've put together a plan. Glow handles distribution. The farmers get paid fair prices. People get fresh, healthy food. No money for me, no strings attached, just help. I looked at the folder, at the photos of farmers smiling in their fields, at the detailed plan. It was good, thoughtful, practical, no tricks. Can I see the farms? I asked. Of course. He stood up. Let's go. We drove out of town to the countryside. The farms were small rows of tomatoes, lettuce, strawberries, apple trees. Farmers waved when they saw Anderson, called him Connor. He'd started going by his middle name. An old farmer named Thomas walked over, shaking my hand. You're from Glow? Thank God. Anderson's been a godsend, helped us fix our irrigation, taught us organic farming, tried to find us buyers. We just need a break. Thomas took me to his farm, showed me his tomato plants, his wife's strawberry patch. Before Anderson, we were going to lose the farm. Now, maybe we can keep it, send our grandson to college. Looking at Thomas, at the other farmers, at Anderson working in the fields. Dirty hands. No ego. I felt something shift. The anger was still there, but it was softer. He'd hurt us, but he was trying to do better. That counted for something. Glow will partner with you, I said. Anderson looked up, surprised. Really, really. But let's be clear, this is about the farmers, not you. If I see any tricks, any greed, we're done. No second chances. He nodded. Serious. I understand. Thank you, Miss Emily. This means a lot. We launched the partnership a month later, called it Farm to Table for All. Glow set up community produce stands at our centers, selling the farmers. Produce at low prices, donating extra to food banks. We partnered with local grocery stores to carry the produce, with schools to serve it in cafeterias. It was a hit. The farmers made more money. Thomas bought his grandson a laptop for college. Another farmer fixed her roof. A young couple started a new crop. Low-income families got fresh food. Kids ate healthier. Communities came together. One day, I was at Thomas's farm helping pick strawberries. When Anderson walked over, he handed me a basket of berries. These are the sweetest ones. Thought you'd like them. I took the basket, smiling. Thanks. He hesitated, then said, Miss Emily, I never got to say this properly. I'm sorry. For your brother, your mom, everything I did to your family. I know, sorry, doesn't fix it, but I mean it. I looked at him calm. I know you do, and I appreciate the apology. But Anderson, my family and I will never forget what you did. But we're moving forward. You should too. He nodded, eyes wet. I will, thank you. That day, I realized something. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting or letting someone off the hook. It's about letting go of the anger that holds you back. It's about choosing to focus on the good, not the bad. It's about giving people a chance to change, because everyone deserves that. Even people who... Our partnership with the farmers was thriving, and it wasn't just helping them. It expanded Glow's reach too. We launched new programs, a disability employment initiative to help people with disabilities find jobs, a senior care program for elderly folks who lived alone, Even a community garden project where neighbors could grow food together. As Glow grew, more young people started joining fresh out of college, full of energy, ideas, and passion. They brought new life to Glow, and none more so than Mia. Mia was 22, just graduated from college with a degree in social work. When she walked into Glow's office for a volunteer interview, her eyes were bright, like she was about to meet her hero. "Miss Emily, I've heard your story. You're amazing," she gushed. "I want to do what you do. Help people, make a difference. That's why I studied social work." Mia was smart, hardworking, and fearless. She didn't just show up to volunteer, she jumped in head first. She noticed that many seniors in the neighborhood rarely left their homes. So she proposed a home visit program. Volunteers would go check on them, help with groceries, clean their houses, just sit and talk. She used her social work skills to create support groups for people with disabilities, helping them build confidence and connect with employers. One day, we met Jacko, a 24-year-old, who'd lost both legs in a car accident a year earlier. He'd stopped leaving his apartment, stopped talking to friends, even stopped answering his mom's calls. His family was desperate. They'd heard about Glow's disability initiative and begged us for help. Mia volunteered to work with him. At first, Jack wouldn't open the door. She'd stand outside his apartment for hours, leaving notes with jokes, or little drawings, or just saying, "I'm here if you want to talk." After 2 weeks, he finally opened up. He didn't talk much at first, just stared at the wall while Mia sat with him. But she didn't push. She'd bring him coffee, talk about her day, tell him about other people in the support group who'd found jobs or started hobbies. Slowly, Jack started to open up, talking about how angry he was, how useless he felt, how he'd loved playing basketball before the accident. Mia didn't just listen, she acted. She found a local adaptive sports league, signed Jack up for wheelchair basketball. She connected him with a craftsman who taught him to make wooden bowls, something he could do from home. She even talked to a local boutique about selling his bowls. 6 months later, Jack was a different person. He played basketball every weekend, sold his bowls at the boutique, they were a hit, and started volunteering at Glow's community garden, helping kids plant seeds. At a Glow fundraiser, he stood up and talked about his journey, how Mia and Glow had saved his life. "I thought my life was over after the accident," he said, his voice shaking. "But Mia showed me it wasn't. She didn't just help me find a job or a hobby. She helped me find myself again. Thank you, Glow. Thank you, Mia." Mia cried when he said that, happy tears. Later, she came to me grinning. "Did you hear him? He called me his hero." I smiled, hugging her. "You are a hero, Mia. You're changing lives just like you wanted to." Mia wasn't the only young person making a difference. There was Leo, a computer science major who built Glow's first app, making it easier for people to sign up for programs, donate, or ask for help. There was Zoe, an art student who started Art for All, teaching free art classes to kids in homeless shelters. There was Jake, a business major who helped our small business owners with marketing and finances. We wanted to nurture these young leaders, so we started the Glow Leadership Program. We brought in experts, lawyers to teach legal skills, nonprofit directors to share management tips, community organizers to talk about advocacy. We paired each young volunteer with a mentor. Lena mentored Mia, Mark mentored Leo, Ben mentored Jake. We also partnered with local colleges, creating the Glow Scholarship, awarding money to students who wanted to study social work, nonprofit management, or community development. The first scholarship went to Lucy, the little girl from the rural library who'd wanted to be a writer. 4 years later, she graduated with a degree in creative writing and came back to Glow, starting a storytelling workshop for kids. One afternoon, I was at the rural library. Lucy was teaching a group of kids to write stories. A little girl named Maya held up her paper. It was a drawing of Glow's logo, with a story about a magic light that helps people. Maya ran over to me, handing me the paper. "Ms. Emily, is this true? Does Glow really help everyone?" I knelt down, smiling. "We try, Maya. And with people like you, people who care, we can help even more." Lucy walked over, putting her arm around Maya. "Maya wants to be a social worker when she grows up, just like you." Maya nodded. "Serious. I want to help kids, and seniors, and farmers just like Glow does." Watching Maya, Lucy, Mia, and all the young people at Glow, I felt so hopeful. Glow wasn't just a nonprofit anymore, it was a legacy. A legacy of kindness, courage, and community. I knew that one day I'd step back, and Mia, Leo, Zoe, Lucy, and all the others would take over. They'd keep Glow going, keep helping people, keep shining light into the dark. That's the beauty of legacy. It's not about you. It's about the people you inspire, the change you start, the light you pass on. And Glow's light was burning bright, brighter than ever, because of the next generation. I thought back to the day I'd knelt on the floor of Anderson's estate, scrubbing wine stains, feeling powerless. I never could have imagined this Glow, the young leaders, the lives changed. But that's the thing about hope. It starts small, but it grows. It starts with one person, one act of courage, one light stand. Then it spreads. This is my story, a story of resistance, of love, and of legacy. It tells us that no matter how humble your origins, no matter how powerful the foes you face, as long as you hold justice, courage, and kindness in your heart, you will always be able to change your own fate and in turn, change the world. And this is the timeless meaning of glow.